Hey guys, this is William with another video for Play-agricola.com's YouTube channel and twitch.tv/play_agricola. Gonna finish off, this is part 2 of my two-part J4 D-Deck review. So just to give a very brief overview, the publishers have asked, like you and Lookout have asked Chris to take care of playtesting for this J4 deck, and so you has given Chris a whole bunch of cards. Chris uploads them to the website and then is hosting a tournament, and then we use the tournament as extra incentive to play test these new cards, give feedback and improve on them and such. If you're watching this on YouTube, I did part 1. I uploaded part 1 probably yesterday or 2 days ago or whatever. I'm planning to upload these on days when I'm not gonna be able to stream, so probably like Wednesday, Friday. So yeah, so basically I'm just gonna go through, give my quick thoughts on the card. I'm gonna try to highlight the cases, like what I want to get out of them for them to be worth playing, because for some cards, you know, there's a cost associated with playing them, and you want to obviously get value back out of that card, and in fact, for especially for occupations, it can often be the case that it's simply not worth playing a card. A good baseline for an occupation is, if an occupation gives food, okay, it has to give one more food immediately for it to be better than a current say fishing action or 2 sheep action or traveling players action. Now the sheep is a little weird because you need a way to eat them with the fireplace, but fishing, traveling players, you know, if a card gives you 2 food in stage 1, that's an occupation gives you 2 food in stage 1, that's worse than a fishing action, because your 2 food is actually only net 1 food because you have to pay a food to play the occupation, and you could have just got 3 food on fishing. Now, if it gives you more stuff over the course of the game, while 2 food now, 2 food stage 2, 2 food stage 3, well, now we're talking about what's going to end up being a pretty good card. But yeah, that's kind of like what we're looking at. We're looking at, does it, you know, what's the impact that it has now? How much do you have to get out of it to be worth it, for it to be worthwhile, and when ideally are you thinking about playing it? And just does it seem like a fun card? Is it a card that I'm excited to play with? You know, that kind of thing. And I'm going to be voting on all of these. So we have vote yes, vote no, abstain. Generally vote no on cards that I don't like, vote yes on cards that I do like, and abstain. And yeah, so we're just going to start going through one by one. So first up is a chairman, which is a 3+ Oc. Each time any player, including you, uses a starting player action space, both they and you get 1 food before taking the actions. If you use it, you get 1 food. The text is weird. The text is like redundant. So just say each time another player uses the starting player action space, both they and you get 1 food. And then if you use the starting player, get 1 food. That would be much simpler. Yeah, I think the last sentence is not that. Okay, 1 food whenever someone goes on start player action space. I could see this being extremely frustrating, because someone who's drafted a bunch of minor improvements and start players a lot, they're getting an extra food. I'll abstain. I'm going to try to be optimistic. I want to vote no, but I'm going to abstain and be optimistic. Let's see how it plays out. If it encourages some weird behavior, like if it encourages people to sit on the start player space, then I'm going to vote no. But maybe it's fine. Food merchant. For each grain you harvest from a field, you can buy 1 vegetable for 3 food. If you harvest the last grain, it only costs 2 food. And Enroll says this seems strictly weaker than the Overwinterer. Except Overwinterer gives you a grain when you play it, and you can buy 1 vegetable for 2 food. But this one, you can buy multiple grain in a harvest. So like if you set up so that in the, you know, round 14 harvest, you're harvesting 4 grain, you can buy vegetables at the cost of 2 food each. Now that doesn't necessarily make it a lot better, but it's not strictly weaker. Obviously it's got a cost. Like, so for example, buying a vegetable at 2 food, your first vegetable, because of food merchant's cost, will actually cost you 3 food. So buying a vegetable at a cost of 3 food is bad. You would much rather just take 1 raw vegetable. However, if you're getting multiple, then it can start being good. Like, for example, if you have a cooking hearth, well, you could end up actually buying a vegetable to gain food overall. However, this requires a really heavy baking investment. I'm going to abstain for now. I want to see how it plays out. Looks like it needs a bit of a buff, though. Work permit. You have to have at least 1 building resource in your supply. Add 1 to the current rounds for each building resource you have, and place 1 person from your supply on the corresponding round space. In that round, you can use that person. This is awkward because of the read cost here. Do you need to have the read and something else after you've played it? I'm not sure if there's a strict order to paying costs and fulfilling requirements. So if I take reedstone food and 2 wood, next round I take SP, I have an extra action. No, you only, yeah, you have a guest in round 5. Yes. And Lumen is saying AG2 has been avoiding using guests. I think it seems pretty fun. I like it. I like this. I like getting guests, and I like that it depends on how many building resources you have and how you've planned out the game. Sure, I'm going to say I like it. Plagiarist. We've already done this one. So cards that I've already voted on, I'm going to have to kind of skip through. Which, there might be a bunch of them in a row because we were commenting on a bunch of them. Yeah, so we're going to have to go through a whole bunch here because these are all the ones we commented on and voted on before. So I can probably jump ahead to like 40, and I'm still going to see something I voted on. That's right. But this is getting towards the end. Wait, oh, I'm skipping past stuff that I haven't voted on. Beer tap I did vote on. Bale of straw. Did I vote on bale of straw? I can't tell. Definitely read this lynch it card. Beer tap. I think we voted on beer tap already. Already voted. Oh, I can just click and see. Already voted. Good. This should be the first one that yes, or not this one. This should be the first one that I haven't voted for. Yes. All right. Beautiful. Fat stock stretcher. Each time you turn a sheep or a boar into food using a cooking improvement, you get an additional food. That actually seems pretty strong. I don't know if it's too strong. But we don't have a lot of cards that have this effect that are actually worth playing. Like if you look at the, like the vegetable pellets, whenever the minor improvement in EIK, that card is really weak. Turning a vegetable into food, you get an extra food. Like that card's really weak because you just get vegetables so late. However, sheep are available at the beginning of the game. So sure, we'll vote yes. Looks like it should be fine. It might be too strong, actually. Hard to say. New market. Wood and a read point. Each time you use an action space card on round spaces 8 to 11, you get 1 additional food. So 8 to 11, that is including 2 stone actions. No, not 2 stone actions. 1 stone, 1 cattle, 1 boar, 1 vegetable. pretty expensive. A wood, so if the wood, let's say the wood is the point, and then how much do you want to get out of the reed for this to be worth playing? You probably want to get probably want to get 3 food. So you want to take vegetable once, you want to take boar once, you want to take cattle once. That's okay. That's like pretty normal. However, you don't get it instantly, you get it over time. So you have to pay the cost up front and get the benefit later. Hey, Rattle Crane. I think this probably needs a buff, but in terms of card design, I think it's fine. It's probably a little too weak right now, though. Trout pool. Start of each work phase, if there are at least 3 food on the fishing action space, you get 1 food from the general supply. I like this design. Seems cool. Could be quite strong. It encourages interactions with your opponent, which I like. Rolling pin, wood and a food. In the returning home phase of each round, if you have more clay than wood in your supply, you get 1 food. Important to note that the rolling pin helps you do that by immediately decreasing your wood count. What is the J4 deck? Can we all vote? Yeah, everyone can vote. The J4 deck is a planned expansion to the WizKids D deck. The WizKids D deck, I think, is a like 20 card deck that came with a bunch of meeples, like high detailed like figures and pieces and stuff. So this is an expansion to that. That you're going to be able to buy the cards to complete the D deck. I mean, 1 foot per round could be pretty good. More clay than wood in your supply is difficult to do. I like that. I would like this idea. Churchyard. 10 cards in front of you, 1 stone, 1 reed. Place 2 food on each remaining round space. So you have to have played 10 cards. That's extremely expensive. I don't think it needs to cost a stone and a reed for the payout. Because 10 cards in front of you is way more difficult to do than Animal Pen, which is 4 played occupations. Churchyard is like way more difficult. It doesn't need to be so expensive. So, but I mean, Animal Pen is one of the best cards. So if this card is just playable, that's probably fine. We'll abstain. It probably needs a cheaper cost. That's right, Rattle Crane. Yeah, so saying you have the WizKids expansions. So this is playtesting for the D expansion. Exactly. So the C deck that we did last year was an expansion to the WizKids C deck, and then now we're doing the WizKids D deck and expanding that to a full deck. Yeah, that's right. So there's some cards that have already been published that we can't do anything about. And they have to fit into certain slots in the deck because we do have a U-mandated deck structure. Wood rake. During scoring, if you had at least 7 goods in your fields before the final harvest, you get 2 bonus points. I would like to see this card. I would like to see a prerequisite that says you have to play this before the final harvest. Because if you play this like after the field phase, then you have to go back and remember, which I think is kind of annoying. I would like to see that you have to play this before it actually needs to remember whether you did or not. The cat's going crazy. So we're on card 64. Otherwise, I think, yeah, it looks good. We'll vote yes, sure. Storeroom, 2 stone, 2 wood. 1 sec, I'm getting a call. Sorry about that. Okay, during scoring, you get a half bonus point for each pair of grain vegetable you have. That looks pretty good. This looks very strong. I mean, if you have, okay, let's suppose you have 4 vegetables, 4 grain, right? That makes this a 3-point card for 2 stone, 2 wood. Compare that to Tavern, which I just played for 2 points. Now this card does have an upside and it has a downside. If you're hitting it for 2 points only, it's probably overcosted. But if you're hitting it for 3 points, that's pretty good. Oh, rounded up. Oh, it rounds up too. So you can get 5. If you have 5 vegetables, 5 green, that 5th vegetable is worth a full point with this card. Looks good. I like this. I like scaling cards that you don't have to go all in for, but like it rewards you if you do put a lot of effort in. You can build a joinery and well major improvement even when taking a minor improvement action, or you can build both with a single major improvement action. When you're considering you're having to pay a wood and a reed for this, what are the odds that you're going to actually be able to build both? So instead of playing major well and then playing major joinery, you're going to play this card on start player or family growth and then build the well and the joinery after, meaning you have to have 4 wood, a reed, and 5 stone in your supply, or access to them from some other way. Like, that's expensive. That's really expensive. Now the joinery is not all that contested, but you know what, people like taking cards like the goblet. You know, if you can make this work, like this just seems like if you get reedstone food, you know, 3 times in stage 1, then you're going to be able to play this with family growth and have a really good game. Because building the well as a minor, we know that's pretty strong. You know what? We're going to vote this up. I like the fact that it costs a reed. I think that's pretty cool. Pioneering Spirits. This card is an action space for you only. In round 3 to 5, it provides Reno. In 6 to 8, it provides your choice of vegetable, boar, or cattle. Yeah, 5 rings and stonecutter. Yeah, obviously if you have some kind of discount, then it gets even better. Giving a Reno in round 3 could be really broken. Vegetable, boar, cattle. How often is this going to be worth a card? Giving guaranteed renovation can be good. However, compare this to building trowel, which is 1 wood, that just lets you reno immediately. This is probably not playable in its current form. We're going to vote no. I don't think you almost ever want to play that. AG2 has easy reno cards. Renovation Company gives you reno to clay. Pulverizer Plow, 2 wood. Immediately after each time you use a clay accumulation space, you can pay 1 clay to plow a field. This looks really strong. Really strong, because the clay actions are uncontested late in the game. I think this card is going to be incredibly strong. We're going to be optimistic and abstain. I think this card is going to be really good. Steam Plow. 2 wood. In each returning home phase, you can pay 2 wood and 1 food to use the plow and field action space without placing a person. Oh, I see. So you're getting a plow. You pay 2 wood and a food to get a plow action. And it seems like you don't have to put a... Does it have to be occupied? If it has to be unoccupied, it's really unplayable. If it can be occupied, it's more playable, but still very weak. So we're at number 69. So we're going to vote no on this one, because that is extremely weak. Drill Harrow. Each time before you take an unconditional sow action, you can pay 3 food to plow 1 field. Looks good. Yeah, this is going to be a pretty strong card. You set up a bake engine. So let's compare this to... the comparison is to whenever you bake, you plow a field. Because this lets you bake first, bake a grain to get the food, and then spend that food to plow a field. It's a miner, and it costs some wood, so it's very cheap. It also works with non-baking combos, like it works with if you have an animal game and you want to sow at the end of the game. Like, looks pretty strong. Looks very strong. We'll say yes. So one caveat is I've never played a game with these J4 cards. I have no idea what the meta is like. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of food. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of wood, a lot of clay, a lot of plows, whatever. I'm trying to evaluate based on my understanding of the game, which admittedly is not based around the ABCD decks. So, wooden weigh bucket. 1 wood. Each time before you use the sheep or cattle space, you can build exactly 1 stable for 1 wood. Looks good. Yeah, cards like this are nice. It lets you do... It's something you want to do in order to be able to hold the animals, which is something you want to do if you're taking the action. The fact that the first stable is regular price... Oh, and the cattle actually builds the stable for free. Ooh, that's going to be really obnoxious. I actually don't like that this cattle stable is free, because you're going to have people taking 1 cattle when it comes out, and that's really obnoxious. So we're on 71. So we're going to abstain. Yes, oh, I already abstained. Okay. Hammer Crusher. 1 wood. Immediately before you renovate to stone, you get 2 clay and 1 reed, and you can take a build rooms action. Huh. So this is like Remodeler, except... Okay, so for Remodeler, you're paying 2 wood, 2 wood and a clay to add a clay room to your house. This card, you're paying 2 clay, a wood, and a reed, but it's a minor improvement instead of an occupation. And it combos with build rooms action. This card is going to be really very good. And going to a stone house is something you're going to want to do anyways. 2 clay, a reed, a stone, and a wood to add a stone room to your house. Like, that's not nothing, but this card is going to be pretty strong. But it seems like a cool card. I mean, it's a minor, so you have to play it before. It'll be kind of annoying if you start play it, but that'll happen sometimes. Trowel, 1 wood. At any time, you can renovate your house to stone. From a wooden house, this costs 1 stone, 1 reed, and 1 food per room. From a clay house, this costs 1 stone per room. So the trowel lets you... It gives you a free reno action. So this is builder trowel, except instead of wood to clay, this is clay to stone, and you're paying a wood for the reed. I don't know. Renovating to stone is such an important aspect of the game. Now, cards that give you free reno actions, like occupations and miners, have not generally been all that strong. But this one gives you a discount. Like the ability to sit in a wood house and then play this in round 14 or start play around 13 to set up a plow sow. Like, that's going to be really good. The one reed is expensive. Like 4 reed, 4 stone, and a food per room is expensive. But it lets you ignore clay the whole game except for, you know, getting your cooking hearth or fireplace. And if you've done that, you probably can afford the 4 food for a 4 wood house, for a 4 room house, for example. We'll say yes. We're going to be optimistic. I mean, I think it'll be pretty good, generally. Lawn fertilizer. Your pastures of size 1 can hold up to 3 animals of the same type. So, why does it say it this way and not just your pastures of size 1 have capacity plus 2? Yeah, this effect is not good. This effect is really weak. Like, there's a card that gives this effect, and it's like pretty unplayable. Now, that card does cost something. This one doesn't have that cost, but rather than play this card, just take extra wood. Instead of playing this card, just take 1 extra wood action and fence your thing 1 thing bigger. Same type. This effect is generally not worth a card. Soybean meal. 1 pasture, 1 sheep, prereq. You immediately get 2 grain for each pasture with exactly 1 sheep in it. This is going to be pretty good. I mean, all you need is 2 pastures with 2 pastures, 2 sheep. This gives 4 grain. I think it's too good. I don't like. Okay, one of the things about this game is there is graphs. All right, we're gonna try to draw this out. So here is a graph. Okay, and the x-axis is number of actions dedicated. And the y-axis is payoff. Okay? So, the thing about this game is, generally speaking, as you put effort into cards, so you start at 0. You put no work in, you get no payoff. And in fact, your payoff is actually like -1. If you put no work into getting animals, your payoff is going to be -1. Okay, so the first action that you put into taking animals is good. All right, so you go up quite a bit. All right, and then the second action you put into sheep, though, instead of getting 2 points, you're only getting 1 point. And you're still only getting 1 point, and you're still only getting 1 point, and you're still only getting 1 point. But then at some point, you've got yourself so much food that you freed up a lot of actions for other stuff. So then you start getting higher payoff again. Is that true? This is too steep. I think there's like... Okay, so you say you take 1 sheep. 1 sheep gives you 2 points, okay? That second sheep that you get is worth 2 food. 2 food is way worse than 1 point. And that's true, but it does let you breed. However, breeding only gives you 2 food per harvest, so that gets a little better. But generally speaking, you know, your first action into taking sheep gets you a lot of stuff. Your second action is diminishing return, and your third your fourth action, usually if you're doing a fourth action of sheep grab, you have some payoff card. So then you start getting plus, yeah, and this is too steep. It shouldn't be as steep as the opening slate space, but generally you get to a point where you have something like open gate and you start getting payoff again. What this card lets you do is this card makes it too easy for you to hit the steeper portion again on the sheep and animal grab, but then still cheat back and get really good grain moves. And I think that's why I don't like this card, because it's similar to Grain Seller. So if we think about G45 Occupation Grain Seller, what it lets you do is it lets you put tons and tons of work into setting up a grain game, and then it says play Grain Seller. Now not only do you have a good grain game, you also have a good animal game. It lets you skip, like it makes it too easy to skip this middle portion. Like the middle portion, it makes it too easy to skip this portion. It says you hit this portion on animals or on grain and fields. Okay, you also now are going to get to this portion on animals. It lets you skip this middle part where it's like flatter, where the payoff is lower. And I think that is a problem. Math is fun. So I vote no to this card, even though it's strong. I think it'll be very strong. I think it's actually going to be too good. I think it's going to enable some really annoying cards. Like if you're in a position where you have this setup, and then you do this with start player, and then you plow sow with your next action, that's going to be a massive point swing. Massive, massive point swing. And if you're smart, you're going to hold it until your opponent can't take advantage of the grain that they would get out of this card. So you're going to play it start player around 12, and then when they won't be able to use it in start play around 13, or you're going to use it start play around 13, and then you don't really care if you pass it to them because you're getting plow sow anyways. So Petrified Wood, 2 occupation, prereq, costs 1 food, and you convert 3 wood into 1 stone each. Fine. Does it need a food cost? Fine. I don't know. Looks fine. You know what? We'll vote yes. Sure. Compare this to the card where you can exchange 4 resources to 4 of any other. This is weaker because it has to be wood into stone and it's passing and it costs a food. But that other card is really flexible, and that's part of what makes it really strong. Like turning 4 clay into a reed and 3 stone is really good. This card doesn't let you do that. It converts only stone. It's probably fine. Furrows. You can immediately sow in exactly 1 field. So this, I guess they would say this is not an unconditional sow action. Seems fine. It's passing. It's free. Sure. Seems fine. Zig Zag Harrow. 3 fields in an L shape. You can immediately plow 1 field such that it completes a zigzag pattern. So I'm going to vote no for this one just because this text is super obnoxious. What constitutes a zigzag? I'm assuming, let's bring up paint again. I assume it means, oh, I should use boxes for fields. Field, 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 field. I assume that's what they mean by 3 fields in an L shape, and then it lets you go like that. This card lets you plow here. This text is really annoying. This is a very unusual field configuration. Most players, like, I don't want to have to set up every game as if someone might pass me Zig Zag Harrow, because it's just going to cause a lot of aggravation. I don't like the text on it. Yeah, trash text. Yeah, that's right. Dwelling plan. You can immediately take a renovation action. I like this because it's passing and it doesn't change the cost. So you can use this, and you know, if your opponents have, say, put effort into screwing you, well, you've given them a card back which they can use as well. Looks fine. Actually, a reno for the gaining a reno action for 1 food, that's pretty good. Now this does pass. Yeah, I'm gonna do stuff like try to set up family growth round 14, reno to stone house. I'm gonna do that kind of thing with that card. Pure breeder. After each round that does not end with a harvest, you can breed exactly 1 type of animal. This is not considered a breeding phase, as in you don't get to breed multiple types. Like, yeah, I think it looks good. I like this idea. As an occupation, you can play it early if you want to get good payoff out of it. Yeah, I mean, you play it in round 10 for 2 breeding phases. Maybe it gets you an extra cattle and an extra boar. That's fine. Stable milker. Each time you build at least 2 stables, you also get 1 cattle. That's pretty strong. This looks pretty good. Is it worth a card though? So what's your setup where you're getting 2 cattle? Because obviously you're looking at this card and saying, how do I get cattle breeding? Well, the way you get cattle breeding is taking 8 wood in stage 1. So you take 3 wood, 3 wood, 2 wood. All right, 3 wood, 3 wood, 2 wood, and then you play this card. That's 4 actions. Okay, then you go on 2 stables once. Then you go on 2 stables twice. That's 7 actions. And then you don't have to do this in stage 1. You could do it for this, like in the start of stage 2. Like say when you build a room in stage 2, you get the 2nd cattle. It requires a lot of work, but the payoff is correspondingly nice. We're gonna say yes. I would like, you know what, this is a card that would fit in great in EIK and the older sets. I would love to play this card and try to make this card work in the older sets. I have no idea how it'll work in ABCD. No idea. Pig Stalker. Each time you use an animal accumulation space, if you occupy the action space immediately above or below. So above or below is problematic because orientation is generally problematic of the game board. But I think above or below, there's definitely clearly an orientation to the boards, given that they have text on them, so that the text obviously gives them an orientation. You also get a boar. It's a minor improvement that's free. So if we compare this to pig guy, the 1 food, get a boar, minor improvement, which is fine. That card is fine. It's not great, but it's fine. This could pay off multiple times, and it can also give immediate payoff if you set it up properly. So say, you know, you're playing this card on family growth and you use 1 stone below it. Say you use 2 stone below it, and then you go on pig stock, or oh no, it's only on animal accumulation spaces. So you have to play this before you ever use the animal accumulation space. Sure, we'll say yes. We're being optimistic. Pet grower. Each time you use an animal accumulation space, if afterward you have no animals in your house, you also get a sheep. I think this is pretty good. Yeah, I like this. I think that's a cool design. Name makes no sense. Pet grower makes no sense, but the text looks fine. Instead of above or below, what about consecutive? I mean, I think above and below is okay. Just that you have to be careful with how, like, with how multiple game boards interact, because we have like a kind of an established way that we set up the game boards, but they're not like, not everyone sets up the game board that way. Like, it depends on your table space, for example. Journeyman Bricklayer. When you play this card, you immediately get 2 stone. Each time another player renovates to stone or builds a stone room, you get 1 stone. That's pretty good. Like, you're going to play this in stage 1 just to build the well. You're going to read stone food once, play this card, take 3 wood, and then build the well. Yeah. This card is going to be pretty good. It might be annoying to play with, but, I mean, there is Stonecutter out there, too. Stonecutter's not as obnoxious as that one, but, I mean, if we think about Mare Candidate, right? Mare Candidate gives a 2 wood, 2 stone payout, and it's not super obnoxious. Now, it has a downside, but Mare Candidate gives you 2 wood, which could be even better. Cabbage Buyer. When any player renovates and then builds no 1 minor, 1 major, you can buy a vegetable for 3, 2, 1 food. So every time someone renos plus majors, you can buy a vegetable for 1 food. That's pretty good. This is pretty good. It's gonna have a really big payout. Like, this is the kind of card that is just gonna give you a strong vegetable game on its own. I would like to see a limit to how many vegetables you can buy. So we're at 85. Reed Seller. At any time, you can turn 1 reed into 3 food. Any other player can prevent this by buying the reed for 2 food from you. If multiple players are interested, choose 1. So you're going to turn a reed into 3 food. Someone else can say, nope, I want to buy that reed for 2 food. Reed to 3 food is a pretty good conversion, but how often do you actually want to use that conversion? We already have this card, sort of, well, not in the buying aspect, but the 1 reed to 3 food per harvest, we know how much that's worth. And it's okay. Basket Maker, right? We know how good the Basket Maker is. Here we go. Basket Maker, power 1.8. Now this you can convert multiple times, and your opponents can impact how much you actually get out of it. I generally like interactive cards. I don't know if I would have... What's the situation in which I'm playing this? Because for me, I would love if I want to do a big house, I would love if my opponents played this, because they're going to try to take the reed out of the game, but I'm going to say, you can take the reed out of the game, but I'm just going to buy it back from you. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I like this. Animal rights activist. In the breeding phase of each harvest, you get 1 food for each type of base game animal for which another player gets a newborn. Base game animal? I assume that's referring to sheep or cattle, not including animals from different other things. Why does it have to exclude horses or whatever? I don't Like, can't you get horses in Farmers of the Moor, or is there like an all creatures big and small thing? But you don't play occupations in those, do you? Anyways, animal rights activists, breeding phase of each harvest, 1 food. This card's going to be pretty weak. This card's going to be really weak. Because, yes, usually your opponents are going to want to breed, but what if they decide not to and they screw you over? Also, the breeding phase comes after the feeding phase. I would like to see this, unless you are allowed to feed your family after every other player has completed. Yeah, too weak. So I'll abstain for now. Retail dealer. 3 grain, 3 food on this card. Each time you use the Reedstone food action space, you also get a grain and a food from this card. This space is already really good. Reedstone food is already a really good space. Did retail or dealer really need to make it better? We're going to be optimistic and abstain and say that it's not going to be too strong. But if you compare this to like, oh, what's the card? I just played with it earlier, Storehouse Keeper. Compare this to Storehouse Keeper. Storehouse Keeper is Reedstone Food Grain, and that card is already very playable. This card is going to be like obnoxious. If you pass this to someone, you should expect to be last at least twice in stage 1. Because they're going to start player just to get their Reedstone Food Grain Wood action. Or Reedstone food Reedstone Grain. Yeah, like you only need to trigger it twice for all your feeding in stage 1. It's going to be obnoxious to sit after. Wealthy man. At the start of 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th harvest, if you have at least some grain fields, you get a bonus point. So this card is probably fine. Obviously, great combination with Field Watchman. I guess I'm comparing this to... okay, this is a bad example, but compare this to the 2 wood, 1 stone card, where it's a grain to 3 food and a bonus point. Can't remember what that card's called. Now, it's a G4, G5 deck card, so different deck, different context. I like that it can give you 6 bonus points. I like that to get the bonus point, you have to have 6 grain... You know what? No. You have to have 6 grain fields. When do you ever want to have... Or 5. When do you ever want to have 5 grain fields? No. No. No good. Your easiest time to hit the bonus is in stage 1 and stage 2. And you don't want to play an occupation that gives you 3 bonus points in stage 1 or 2. You want to play something that gives you income. Something that helps you family growth, feed your family. No. Ebonist. Each harvest, you can use this card to turn exactly 1 wood into 1 food and 1 grain. This seems like a good effect. Wood to a food and a grain is pretty nice. Sure. Don't need to dwell on that too much. Godly Spouse. Each time you take a family growth action with the second person you place in a round, return the first person you placed home. So you're trying to family growth with your second move, and then you gain an action if you do so. So you're trying to manipulate the family growth queue such that... So if I was playing, if I had this card, I would hope to set up a family growth queue such that people are first action building and second action using the family growth action. And in fact, I might delay my family growth. Like if round 5 family growth came out and I hadn't played this card yet and no one else had built a room, I might play this card and then block build room. Or do something along those lines. Now, if we think of, yeah, how often is this worth a card? You know what, though? It doesn't work that well at the end of the game, because at the end of the game, you're going to unoccupy start player, you're going to unoccupy plow sow, cards that your opponents want to take. Yeah, sure. Let's see how it plays out. We'll vote yes for now. If it's really problematic, then Ebonist will power a lot of engines. Yep. But you know what? A wood, 6 wood to 6 grain is expensive. That's an expensive conversion. Employee. If you have a clay or stone house, at the end of each work phase, you can pay 1 food to use an unoccupied action space in a column with at most 1 occupied action space. So, this is giving you a guest, which is very specific. So if you're in a clay or stone house, you get a guest, which can only use very certain actions. So you're paying a food to get the guest to use an action. The column with at most 1 occupied action space. So if we think about, you know, stage 3, stage 4, there are only 2 actions. So if only one of them are used, you can use the other. So you can take vegetable, you can take... Yeah, I think this card is pretty good. This card is pretty good. You're not going to be able to do it every round, but hey, you don't have to pay the food every round. You only have to pay the food in the rounds you get the actions. Sure, we'll vote yes. Casual worker. Each time another player uses a stone accumulation space, you can choose to get 1 food or build a stable without playing wood. This is too good. Free stables are really good. Yeah. We're going to be optimistic and abstain, but I think that card is going to be quite strong. Trap layer. Each time you use a day labor action space, place 1 food, and 1 boar on the next 3 rounds. At the start of these rounds, you get the good. So the second time you use it, so the first time you use it, you've gained a boar and a food. But you had to use day labor, and day labor is not really good enough to use on its own. Now the second time you use it, you've gained 3 food and 2 boar. Now the second boar, you're starting to be able to breed, and the boar come in the future, which gives you time to set up holding. Yeah, it looks fine. It's just, yeah, mostly weaker than herdsman. Yes, because you don't get the animal immediately, and you don't have the option to also get the sheep instead. But yeah, it looks fine. Just going to be on the weaker side, probably. Digger operator. Each time another player takes exact... Aren't you playing, Sid? Or are you guys waiting? Oh, no, that was Doe Academy playing. Digger operator. Each time another player takes 2 goods from an accumulation space, including food, you get 1 clay. So every time someone takes 2 cattle, 2 sheep, 2 boar, you get a clay. I mean, it gives you a bunch of clay. Sure. Unplayably weak. I don't know if it's unplayable. Clay sucks, and so slow clay sucks even more. I mean, I would want a reason to... I would want a use for the clay. Like, I wouldn't just play this in any old game. I would want some reason to need clay. And, I'm thinking, like, I'm looking at this and thinking 2 boar, 2 sheep, 2 cattle. You know, you're getting a clay every time those action spaces are taken. You're getting, every time someone takes 2 wood, you're getting a clay. Like, clay, like, if you think about Clay Deliveryman is not great, but it's fine. This card, I think, will be pretty similar to Clay Deliveryman, and that's okay. Potato planter. At the end of each work phase in which you occupy the one clay pit or one reed accumulation space, while the respective other is unoccupied, you get a vegetable. So you take 2 reed and no one takes 2 clay in round 2. This gives you a vegetable. Then in round 3 you take 3 clay. Then in round 3 you take 3 clay, and 1 reed is, no one's going to take 1 reed, you get another vegetable. I think this card is going to be pretty good. It's going to take work, but looks like it'll be pretty nice. It'll give you a lot of vegetable, but those 2 action spaces go down in value the later the game goes. So it'll be okay, I think. Animal Activist. If there are still 396 complete rounds to play, you get 234 wood. Each player with the most fenced stables get 2 bonus points. Doesn't this card already exist? I mean, I'm going to say yes, because, I mean, it gets you wood, you use the wood to build fenced stables, you know. But I feel like this card already exists somewhere. Not an AG2. Yeah, like, to be fair, potato planter, you really want to play it in round 1, and then you really want to get 2 reed round 2. Similar to stable architect. Okay. Yeah, looks fine. Man with 3 children. At the start of each harvest in which you have 5 people, you get 2 bonus points. How to feel about this? If you have 5 family members, an action that gives you 2 points is already good. So I would play this in round 14 a lot of the time, because when you have 5 family members, you often just need cards that give you bonus points. This card is going to be quite strong, I think, because if you hit those 5 people in round 13, this card is now 4 bonus points, which is pretty good. We'll say yes. If you can get 4 points from this, yeah, exactly. That's the question. How often can you get 4 points? If you can get 4 points often, it's going to be really, really strong, really good. Hardworking Man. This card is an action space for you only. If each other player has more rooms than you, it provides the day labor, build room, and major improvement action. So this is a catch-up card. It's an action space that only you can use, and it says that if everyone else has a bigger house, you can go on it to day labor, build room, and major improvement. That's just going to cause problems, because it's going to be like, yeah, it's going to cause problems. I think the text, it's just going to cause problems. How does it interact with day labor? How does it interact with build rooms on an action space? You know, that kind of thing. You like it if it's a day labor card. The other thing I don't like, if everyone else has more action spaces, if everyone else has more rooms than you not blocking the build room action space can be really awful. Because oftentimes you want to use build room. If you're growing fourth, you often want to build your room at a time when you're securing the fourth family growth. You usually want to be doing something along those lines. This card doesn't let you do that. It's going to cause problems, and it's really not very good, I don't think. You're going to want a lot of day labor combos before you use it. You're right, Sid. Yeah. Forest Trader. Each time you use a wood or clay accumulation space, you can also buy exactly 1 building resource. Wood, clay, and reed cost 1 food. Stone costs 2 food. The ability to buy stone is nice. Ability to buy wood. The ability to buy whatever you need. Ability to buy a reed on 1 food. For 1 food, oh man. Like, you're using this card and then you take wood twice and there you go, you're ready to build a room. Now, of course, you've had to pay food, but, you know, you can use your other action to, like, set up fireplace or whatever. It's going to be pretty good. It does give bonus points though. I kind of like cards that are strong that don't give bonus points. I'm interested in seeing more cards like that. Tree Inspector. This card is a 1 wood accumulation space for you only. Each time the newly revealed action space card is a stone accumulation space, you must discard all wood from this card. So you play this in round 1. Then in round 4, it's a unblockable 4 wood action space. Then stone comes out sometimes in stage 2. And then in round 9, this card has somewhere between 2 and 4 wood on it. And then you use this action space again to get another 4 wood. So it's pretty much a wood per round for the first like 9 rounds, but you have to use actions. Like this is 3 actions for like 8 wood. I think it's a little too weak. I mean, getting an unblockable 4 wood action is nice, but if you don't play... Oh, you know what? It's not even 4 wood in round 4. It's 3 wood because you've played this in round 1. Yeah, this card is too weak. It's just not going to be worth playing most of the time. Young Farmer. Each time you use the Major Improvement action space, you also get 1 grain, and afterwards you can take a sow action. This is going to be pretty good. Yeah, getting a grain sowing, that's stuff you want to do anyways. Getting a grain when you use major, build ovens, obviously good. Yeah, this is going to be like kind of like Bargaining Baker a little bit. Lightweight. At the end of each turn that you started with at most... The end of each turn that you started with at most 1 wood and completed with 0 wood... So you have to go from 1 wood to 0 wood in your supply. You get 2 food. This is going to be a really annoying card to keep track of. And reminder, you can discard goods at any time. What? Brackets tell me you was really high when designing these. Was he really designing them? I don't know if that's the right word. Obviously, this is counter to every other card that says you cannot discard goods at any time. Like, Oh, I forgot what number I was at. We're almost done. Almost done, guys. The end is in sight. Young Fencer. Each time you use the Major Improvement action space, you also get 1 grain, and afterwards you can take a sow action. Oh, I already read this one. Whoops. Sculptor 2. Each time you use a clay accumulation space, you also get 1 food. Each time you use a stone accumulation space, you also get a grain. Getting grain on stone is good. Getting food on clay is marginal. This is going to replace something. And while lists a whole bunch of not very good grain cards as an example that this card is better than weaker Botanist, yeah, because Botanist gives you vegetable, right? I mean, using stone accumulation spaces to get grain is fine. Sure, we'll vote yes. Optimistic, right? We're optimistic. Village Farmer. In the returning home phases of round 8, 10, 12, decide whether afterward you want to add a harvest phase for you only, including the feeding phase. I see. So if you have so much wood, do you want to, or if you have so much food, do you want to pay to feed your family to have a field and breeding phase? Sure. going to be hard. It's going to be really, really hard. And I don't know how many times I would actually play it. But if you have enough food, maybe it's worth it, right? Just because Estate Master exists. I have not, I don't know Estate Master, so I don't know how it would interact with it. The nice thing is, most cards say refer to specific. This one is like a generic. The way most cards are written that interact with harvest phases, they only interact with natural harvest, not random harvest that you get from occupations. But yeah, I'm not sure about Estate Master. I'd have to read in that. We've banned Estate Master. 1 bonus per vegetable field harvest. Site Manager. When you play this card, immediately build a major improvement, paying 1 fewer building resource of each required type. This looks really strong. So have 2 stone and then build the well. Really, really strong. Yeah. I guess we'll vote yes. I think this card will be pretty good. Henpecked Husband. Okay, so I've definitely played with this card before. I recognize the name. Each time you use a build room action with the second person you placed, return the first person you placed to your house if the first person is not on start player. Alright. So first action, take 3 wood. Second action, build room, get in action. Chris says, why are so many people voting no? So Saboch says, how often are you going to be able to use it twice? It works, yeah. So Saboch is saying power 1.3, but a decent win rate because when you can play it, it's fine. Probably since this card's been around for a while, it means that this has already been published and we can't do anything about it. Talking about Estate Manager still. Don't have experience with that one. Once per work phase, after you complete a person action. Why? Complete a person action. So it doesn't work with cards that give you non-person actions, like actions that you use without. You can pay 1 sheep and 2 food to return another person you placed home. So basically what it's saying is it doesn't interact with cards that let you do something without placing a person. Okay. It just needs to be very differently worded. This cost is very high. 1 sheep and 2 food, basically paying 2 sheep to gain an action. That's quite expensive. Now, if you had a combo, like how often would you want to be taking 2 sheep for this to be worth it? Yeah, exactly. How often is your last action better than a sheep and 2 food? So basically, you're going to need to have an action that only you like that's better than a sheep and 2 food, better than 2 sheep generally. So you're going to need like Sheep Farmer or something. But even Sheep Farmer is only good every other round. I think this is probably not playable. Child Ombudsman. Provided you have room in your house, at the end of each person action again, don't like that phrase, you can take a family growth action with that person. If you do, you get 2 negative points. Okay, so you build a room, you get to family growth on build room. So you play this in stage 1, you can grow in stage 1. Too good. Don't like effects that let you do stuff like that. Okay. Sorted by my unvotes. All right, anything that I haven't voted on yet. Cabbage buyer. Oh, we abstain on this one. I think that it's fine, but we just need to put a cap on how many times you can buy it. So until that gets changed, vote abstain, I guess. All right, there we go, guys. We've gone through all the J4D deck cards. I'll make some videos. I'll generally stream when I'm doing the tournament, so get at least a couple videos of us play testing this J4 deck. Overall impressions, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how to evaluate this deck. I'm going to have to play with it a couple times before I see. I've really not played much ABCD. Card that gives 3 stone for clay room is, yeah, that card is really good. Yeah. Now maybe the meta will be such that it's going to be really difficult to build clay rooms. I'd be surprised if that was the case. Certainly there are some cards that if we mix them into G4, G5, they would be totally broken. On their own, if you're playing in the context of ABCD, maybe they're fine. So I'll try to reserve judgment because I've not played a lot of ABCD. So this video has been a little bonus for you guys on Twitch. I'll upload it on YouTube probably on Friday, and then part 1 will have gone up on Wednesday. So yeah, let me know what you think about this kind of content. I could do more of this. Yeah, I could go through some older decks if you want. Generally speaking, I think if you're watching this channel, you're probably pretty familiar with EIK up to G4-5 at least, just because that's what I've done the majority of. Maybe I could go through and do it for G6 or something. All right, thanks to Sid and Rattle Crane, who are still chatting, which I appreciate. I'm reading it. I've not always been responding, but interesting, and I like seeing what people have to say. So yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed this little video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.